It's Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Remembrance Day is just around the corner. Thanks for tuning into Our 2 Cents with Chris and Jerry. We've got a great show lined up for you tonight, and we're going to start where we always start, it seems, Jerry, and that is, of course, the Q is, a third of the way through the hockey season here now. You look at the standings, you're starting to see some patterns, and, the biggest topic we're going to talk about here tonight, of course, is the Moncton Wildcats, currently sitting second overall in the QMJHL. And the question I have to ask is, are they for real? I know that we kind of talked a little bit about what would happen come trade deadline. Should they stay the course? This was a couple weeks ago. They're starting to make a real interesting case for themselves. They're just coming back off a great Quebec road trip where, they had 4 starters out of the lineup, but still pulled away two wins out of 3 games. They're coming back. They went down to Halifax. They beat Halifax, who somehow is still sitting atop the CHL top 10 standings. Makes no sense there. I think a lot of people are still looking at the Moncton Wildcats as pretenders, where I don't think that should be the conversation anymore. I think it's time to look at it and go, Steinman's played very well. He's your guy. That team is rounded out. They're doing the things they thought they were going to be able to do, and they're currently sitting second overall in the league. So I've got to know from you right now, are they pretenders? Is this just a phase, or are they actually that good?
Well, the question becomes this, Chris, can they stay healthy? Because as you say, they were without some key individuals in that Quebec road trip. And I speak specifically of Johan Loshing. And Loshing has a history of this, Chris. You go back to his first year in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He only played 19 games as a rookie. And I can't remember the ailment, Chris, but I'm sure the team had him with them. And he only played 19 of the 68. The year after that, he plays 50. The year after that, he played 57 last year and scored 33 goals. Here we are in, I believe, an injury that might keep him out for a month or 4 weeks. And 4 weeks in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, Chris, is 10 games. So again, you're losing a star, your leading scorer star for 10 games. And your even captain, Etienne Morin, who missed 6 games, and count that as 3 weeks off as well. So the key is to be healthy. I think they have all the ingredients. I'm impressed with the players that stepped up while these players were out. Not only did you have Loshing out, but you had the first round pick Caleb Desnoyers, who was out of the lineup as well through that Quebec road trip, and fellas like Preston Lonsbury and those guys stepped up and played some good hockey. Can they maintain that? Here's the problem, Chris. Halifax just gets Jordan Dumas back, and I still can't believe this. He's only 19 years old. He had 140 points last year for Halifax, and he's off to a great start again. In 8 games, he's got 9 goals and 12 assists for 21 points. So when you add somebody of that caliber and of that experience to your lineup, it's going to up your stock. But I still don't understand why in the CHL top 10, Halifax sits on top of those rankings. And these rankings, folks, are based on scouts and what they see and what they report, and the consensus between them is. But how can you ignore the Baie-Comeau Drakkar, who are 15-2-2 and have won their last 8? They're ranked number 5. So those kinds of things are confusing. The Moncton Wildcats, bottom line, Chris, need to stay healthy. And if they can do that, they can contend.
You're talking about Loshing, who, was on pace at the start of the year for the first, 10, 12 games, was leading the league in goal scoring. I mean, he's, having a guy that came out of your lineup, not to mention the guy wearing the C in your locker room. And you talk about what's the term they use? Next man up, I guess is the right way to put it. And, Moncton never ceases to amaze me, and they go ahead and do all these things. Now, you brought up a hot topic for me, and that's kind of, I mentioned it earlier, and then you would kind of elaborated, and that was the CHL top 10. I don't like to use the words grind my gears a whole lot, but over the last 10 plus years, I think this is the most useless list I've ever seen in my entire life. You talked about Baie-Comeau. Baie-Comeau doing exactly what Baie-Comeau is doing. Moncton has a second overall in the league, as I mentioned earlier. They went into Halifax a week and a half ago, beat Halifax on home ice as well. Yes, they're getting Jordan Dumas back, and yes, I'm not trying to take away from the Halifax Mooseheads, but the Moncton Wildcats, currently sitting 9th overall in the CHL top 10 list, is an absolute joke. And I just don't understand how and why or who makes this list, or they just throw all 10 teams in and all of a sudden they just start picking balls out and put them in. I don't know how it works. I think it's crazy. But to top that off, the other question I have is, is there anybody else in the Maritime Division? I mean, we talked about Baie-Comeau, but I want to talk exclusively Maritime Division right now. I mean, we talked a little bit about Halifax, but is there anybody else, kind of intriguing you? Is there anybody else worth talking about at this point?
No, Chris, they've really separated themselves. The Mooseheads and the Wildcats have separated themselves from the pack. Here we are early in the going, and they're already 9 points up on Cape Breton, who sits in third with a 9-9 record. Charlottetown's 8-9, I believe, and then you have Bathurst and St. John playing each other and having fun playing each other, but they're both in the bottom six of the overall standings. So Cape Breton has been, to me, the most improved team of the year from where they were from last season. But still, they sit at 9-9, and you've got Moncton and Halifax 9 points better than them in first and second in the Maritime Division. So my answer is no, Chris. It's a Halifax Moncton duel to the end when it comes to the Maritime Division first place.
All right, Gerry, let's stick on the hockey topic, but let's go pro here. Let's talk about the National Hockey League. And we're going to start right now talking about disappointments, because I know that, we always talk about the positives. Let's talk about the negatives for a change. I'm going to give you 3 teams, and I want you to rank me in the order and the level of disappointment so far: the Edmonton Oilers, the Calgary Flames, and the Ottawa Senators.
Well, the worst one is because of the potential of the Edmonton Oilers. You're terribly disappointed where they are. And as of today, they find themselves just 2 points better than San Jose, who picked up their first win of the season the other night. So put that in perspective for a second. A team that has Draisaitl and McDavid in their lineup. They've shipped out Jack Campbell, or trying to ship him to the AHL. There's got to be a move in place for them. They're number one, huge disappointment. Number 2, and I'm going to say this with a little hesitation, because Ottawa, I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do this season with such a young, talented lineup. And I just thought it was going to be their year to really move up in the standings. And don't get me wrong, Chris, they're only 4-6 in the first 10. That's not horrible, but they have so much potential. But the problem is they've got injuries. And they've got distractions, Chris. There's too many distractions going on in the city of Ottawa for this young team. First, you have Pinto's incident with the NHL and being suspended, and then you had the whole trading business, and then you see your general manager resign, and all the things that are going on away from the rink. Must be difficult for the young Senators to keep their focus. So they're number 2 for me. And then number 3, I think maybe they're righting the ship a little bit in Calgary with a couple of victories here in the last week. But Calgary, not so much, because they didn't disappoint me last year in whatever they did. But Ottawa, I had expectations for them. And of course, Edmonton, everybody expects the best player in the NHL to be near the top of the division.
Yeah, it's remarkable how the Chicago Blackhawks all of a sudden go through the speculation they do, and they're rewarded with Connor Bedard. Meanwhile, the Ottawa Senators lose first-round draft picks over a botched trade fiasco. Anyways, won't go there. Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks. For real, what a turnaround. I mean, how good do the Canucks look right now?
Well, you've got to give credit. And when you asked me early in the season, I said, what do you think's going on in Vancouver? And I said the word is hope. I think they hope to be better than they were last year, because they do have a lineup that looks like it can be good. And maybe Rick Tocchet has done it. Maybe Rick Tocchet has tapped on the shoulder a few of these guys, because all of a sudden Brock Besser doesn't want to leave. All of a sudden JT Miller doesn't want to leave. They were gonna, didn't they? They wanted to go. And you got Pettersson playing great, and you got Quinn Hughes leading it from the defensive core, and you're getting great goaltending from Demko. And those are key ingredients. You've got a solid guy down the middle. You got a solid guy heading your defensive core, and you've got goaltending. That's a recipe for success. But I think maybe Rick Tocchet and his hard-nosed attack, or the way he approaches things, and I'm not sure if that's the way he does it, but if you see him in any of his news conferences, he's to the point and he's very candid, and I like him. And I think maybe that's what's happened in Vancouver. The hope of being better has been riding on the shoulders of Tocchet.
all stories coming out of Vancouver. The players are refreshed. They love talk. He's a real players coach. And you even hear from some of his former players who say the same thing. And, it's great to see, because I think it's with how badly things went in Vancouver the last season, to see this turn around so quickly. And look, I'm a huge fan of that. I think it's great. I think it's great for hockey, and it's great for the kids, to kind of build that culture. I mean, we had a chance to see when the Sedins were out in Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver fans are Vancouver fans, and they're very passionate. So the fact that they're able to turn this thing around quickly, I think it's great. I am going to move on. I want to talk about the Montreal Canadiens real quick. Surprise, surprise. And that is, of course, I want to level the expectation here, Gerry. And that is, the season started, they were still expected to be bottom feeders, bottom standards, bottom of the standings, but they had a decent start. And look, everything is coming back to you. Looks at, Suzuki, Caulfield's new contract. They've solidified their blue line just a little bit. Unfortunately, you lose Kirby Dach early in the season for the whole year. But Sean Monahan, again, having himself a great season. But don't kid yourself. Keep the expectations low. The things you need to see is progress. You need to see the Habs. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago, and that is, I'm hoping to see the Habs move up about 15 points in the standings, which sucks because we're probably likely going to be out of a lottery pick. But overall, I don't want to put out delusions of grandeur thinking the Montreal Canadiens are going to make the postseason this year. If they do, I'll be excited. But you want to see Slavkovsky. You want to see him take that next step. You want to see Caden Gooley take that next step. You want to see Jordan Harris. You want to see Barron. You want to see these guys all take the next step, because in Laval, don't forget, you got Lane Hudson, you've got Logan Mailloux, you've got Joshua Roy out there in Laval right now. Look, you're just keeping these prospects going. Soon, I hope the Montreal Canadiens end up sending Juraj Slavkovsky back to Laval and let him get his confidence back. He scored his first goal of the season last week. But don't kid yourself, folks. The Montreal Canadiens are likely not playoff bound. Great start. Love to see it. They do look good as long as the offense goes. Goaltending is going to be my big question mark in Montreal, and that is, somebody's going to be the odd man out, and it wouldn't shock me if someone's heading to Vancouver sooner than later. But overall, let's just temper those expectations just a little bit. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. I know you're not a big Habs fan, which is why I try to take over come Habs time. I'm not sure if you got a whole lot to say.
Just the conversation that's been seemed to be underlined is whether or not Jake Allen might go to Edmonton is the only thing I'm hearing about anything in Montreal land. And again, another team that I enjoy to watch, and I just hope they have success enough to keep the fans from feeding on them and making it exciting to go to the Bell Center.
All right, let's move to the NBA, Gerry, because I want to talk about James Harden. James Harden moved to the LA Clippers, and I'm going to start this segment off by asking, in fact, we're going to call this segment, Do You Care? That's the new segment title for this. That is James Harden on the move again. Are you exhausted by his antics, or do you respect the fact that he's asserted his power, gone wherever he wants to, getting paid handsomely for what he's getting paid for? I mean, I've had enough. It's to a point now where we've heard more about James Harden than Kevin Durant in the last little while. So I guess we'll start there. I guess that's a positive. But overall, man, I've had enough of this nonsense, man.
The point you make about him flexing his power, when does somebody put their foot down on him, and then you have to pay him and he sits there and does nothing or doesn't want to play for you? I just find that is a terrible type of a ransom that, I don't want to play with you anymore, trade me, is an awful lot of power that these NBA players have all the time and wield it all the time. I saw the game the other night. The Clippers were in New York against the Knicks, and it's always a case when you join a new team, he seems like, hey, it looks like he might fit in there. I don't know if he's going to fit in there. You got Westbrook there too, and they played together at one time, Harden and Westbrook. But then you got Kawhi and you've got Paul there too. So it sounds on paper looks good, but I just don't think Harden, just like he did when he went to the Brooklyn, just like he did when he went to Philadelphia, it looked like it was going to be, oh, that's a tremendous asset to add, with Simmons and with Embiid in Philadelphia, and all of a sudden that was going to be good. And now nothing anywhere he goes, it looks like it's going to be good on paper, but it doesn't end up being so. And I'm just getting tired of the beard. I'm getting tired of the Americans' focus on him and every story that leads with him. It's really enough. And the Clippers, it's championship or bust for them. You add Harden to the lineup, that you better be contending. That's all I got to say.
Look, they were supposed to be the team to beat out of LA for the last 3 years, and it's turned out to be a bust ever since Kawhi and George got together on that roster. Anyways, I agree with you. I want to talk about the Raps and your boy Scotty Barnes, because it looks like he's making a leap into stardom, Jerry. And I want to know, do you think this is the start of something fun for Raps fans? I mean, you know me, I'm not the biggest Toronto Raptors fan on the planet, but overall, I do like seeing guys like Scotty Barnes take over, give the franchise something to thrive toward. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you love this or what?
I think it's his third season.
Yep.
I think it is. Anyways, last year, Chris, he averaged 15 points a game. Right now, at this point in time, he's averaging 22 points a game. That's a big jump. Do your math. It's about 30%. It's a big jump. And for him to go from I think, and could be a more of a starring role, I think it's about time. Siakam is still there, but Siakam's not flexing his muscle like he used to. But the fellow that I'm noticing from all the games that I'm watching, Chris, is this Dennis Schroeder. He's a 30-year-old that's been traveled around, and he's a small guard, but he adds energy to that lineup, and he distributes that ball very well and does so very creatively. But I've always liked Scotty Barnes ever since he's been there, and I'm just thinking the sky's the limit for him. Again, now jumping from 15 points a game up to 22, he's got to maintain that now. But that's a big difference to a team that is in a battle in a game, and you're getting 7 extra points from a guy that's a key cog in your machine. That's big stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I love Scotty Barnes. And like I said, I mean, I think it's great for the fans, and it'll be interesting to see how they develop, and with Grady Dick coming in and, the youth movement in Toronto and how that's going to roll. I'm excited for it, but I guess stay tuned. It's still really early in the season. Jerry, I want to get to the NFL, and that is, of course, there's a lot of things to talk about. McDaniels fired in Vegas, between McDaniels, Belichick apparently in the hot seat. I mean, do you think Tom Brady is getting the last laugh here? Obviously, everyone's saying, hey, no, clearly if it wasn't for Tom, these guys wouldn't have the success they've had.
You got to think, Chris, and that was the talk after the Super Bowl that Brady won in Tampa. Whether or not the discussion was, can Belichick have the success with Brady that Brady's having without Belichick? And it's becoming obvious because the New England Patriots are hard to watch. It is not, and Belichick's always been known for his defense, and they're not even doing that. So I don't know if he's lost his marbles or he's lost his focus or whatever the case may be. The New England Patriots are not fun to watch, and they haven't been ever since Tom left.
So I agree with you. I think, I was always telling, don't get me wrong, I still think that Belichick's the greatest coach in the history of the game, but McDaniels and all that stuff, you know how I feel about Josh McDaniels ever since he pulled that Indy stunt. As far as I'm concerned, he could run away. But overall, I do agree with you. I think Tom Brady, yes, played in Belichick's system and it worked out. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about one of the hottest topics in the NFL of late. No, it's not Taylor Swift. We're going to be talking, of course, about Aaron Rodgers, and that is, it seems a lot closer than we think to him playing at this point. I mean, I saw the last couple of weeks, I saw him with the team gear on, with the headset on at the game, even though the Jets got blown out. But I will say this. I think Aaron Rodgers is, I'm going to poise to say 4 to 6 weeks away at this point. I think by mid-December, I think he's playing. Yes, this Sunday that just passed, I saw him on the field and he flicked a 58-yard bomb on both feet. Look, I think it's something that we could see. I do think Aaron Rodgers will see some time. I think for 4 to 6 weeks, and the most amazing healing process in the history of life, you have to think he's going to be talking to Kirk Cousins throughout this whole process. What do you think? Rodgers plays this year, yes or no?
Well, it's 8 weeks now since the injury, because it happened on the 4th snap of the season, which is humorous in itself. I just still can't believe that. But here's the word going around, stuff I'm reading, Chris, and it is somewhat of a conspiracy. Was he as hurt as they thought he was? Was the injuries as bad as they thought it was? And then they don't tell you if it was or not. Now it looks like miraculously he's going to come back. I think he's a huge distraction for me, being on the sidelines and doing what he does. I still can't believe that. I still don't know if he's going to make that big of a difference. Here the Jets are 4-4. I don't think he's going to make a difference, for them to make the playoffs. I really don't by the time he gets back. I think they're going to be 4-7 by the time he gets back if it's 3 weeks from now. They're not going to win another game, perhaps. So then what the heck are we doing? And bringing him back, why not get him his full rest or whatever treatment he needs to get him back at full strength? It'll be interesting to see for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from perspective of, if you look at the dumpster fire that is the Jets right now and Zach Wilson, look, you're trying to take any positive note away from the entire thing, from what's happening on the field. You're trying to distract the fan base by allowing Aaron Rodgers off the field to kind of take over the media aspect of it. It's been a circus, but overall, I think it's great. I love it. Can't wait to see him back on the field. And you know what that means, Jerry? It's time for Green's Atlantic Scene. Give us a hit. What's happening in the Maritimes? What's going on sports-wise in Atlantic Canada?
Well, in the Maritime Hockey League, it's about 15 games in now, Chris, and there is battles at the top in both divisions. But Summerside, the Western Capitals from Summerside, are leading the South. Meanwhile, the West Kent Steamers are leading in the North. There's a backstory here, Chris. Summerside had to move to the South because West Kent was going to come to Bucktouche and play in the North. West Kent comes from South Shore. They were the South Shore Lumberjacks playing in the Southern Division, playing out of Bridgewater. They get transferred to Bucktouche, and it's been a great success. The Steamers have gone ahead with their general manager, Justin Blackmore, and their head coach, Olivier Villion, and changed the team completely. They currently sit on top of the standings in the North, 2 points ahead of the Miramichi Timberwolves, and are a big surprise this year. And Summerside, no surprise, goes to the South, and they occupy the top of the division there. This week's games to watch is West Kent is going to host Fredericton on Friday night, and then they got Grand Falls in on Sunday at the J. Kerr Irving Center in Bucktouche, which is a beautiful spot. And a name that might be familiar to you, Chris, Alexi Danielle, who's from Dieppe, former captain of the Moncton Wildcats, is leading the charge for the Steamers. He's got 26 points in 16 games. Well, not a surprise in the AUS standings. The UMB Reds are still on top at 10-0 with 20 points. St. FX and Moncton are tied at second with 6-3-1. That's 13 points. St. FX has won 5 in a row. Moncton's lost 2 in a row. So St. FX came up from behind. And that is the game of the week in the AUS men's hockey schedule is Moncton. UDM goes to St. FX to place the X-Men on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Meanwhile, the women, the UMB team is on top. The girls are 8-2. St. FX is second at 7-0-2. Both have 16 points, tied for first. St. Thomas has a girls' team, or a women's team, as I should say, in the AUS, along with UDM. They're tied in third place, and that is the game to watch this week, as St. Thomas goes to Moncton to take on the UDM women Saturday at 7 o'clock. And the New Brunswick PEI Major under 18, Moncton's still on top at 9-2-1. Charlottetown occupies second at 8-1. The game to watch this week, the Fredericton Capitals are in Charlottetown to take on the Knights, and that will be on Sunday at 2 p.m. A reminder, the Monctonian coming up on November 16th.
Wow, that's a lot to look at. And let's, I love all these updates every time I get them from you, Jerry. I think they're wonderful. And now it's time to drop this thing off with our 2 cents. And of course, this is probably the newest thing that I've loved doing. And we're going to start right off the hop. My 2 cents on one topic specific, which is hot. It's actually important. And it's important kind of referencing me as a Colts fan. And that is, of course, the ridiculous rumors coming out of the NFL surrounding Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, and the New England Patriots. And of course, what you're hearing now is, oh, well, if the Colts beat New England in Germany this Sunday, there's rumors floating around that Bill Belichick could be fired as early as Monday. And I'm going to tell you this. These reports have come out from a couple reliable sources, one of them being Ben Bolin of the Boston Globe, very, reputable reporter, we'll say. But at the same time, you're going to sit here and tell me that the New England Patriots and Robert Kraft are going to fire the greatest coach in the history of the game. Not only is he their coach, he's their GM. He does everything. He handles their drafts. And look, I'm no advocate for Bill Belichick. You know this. But the fact of the matter is, if anybody out there thinks that Bill Belichick's going to get fired on Monday if they lose to the Colts, give your damn head a shake. There's no way this is happening. He's brought in that franchise 6 rings. He's the winningest coach ever. I think his record, I was looking at it the other before we started recording, it's 264 and 15 lifetime as a New England Patriots head coach. If I see how this whole thing goes down, look, he may go in the offseason. I'm not saying but I need my 2 cents is stop with the damn nonsense. It's crazy. Bill Belichick's not getting fired mid-season. It would be stunning. It would be shocking. And of course, the other rumors that are floating around was when the report started to come out about his contract extension while all these things were going on. Well, they're saying that it could have come from inside Belichick's camp to go ahead and kind of give themselves some leverage over the crowd, saying, hey, look, I signed a 2-year extension, and you better believe I'm coming after every penny of my guaranteed. So overall, my 2 cents is stop talking about the nonsense. He's the greatest coach in the history of the game. They're going to lose to the Colts this Sunday, and he's still going to be employed on Monday. That's just my 2 cents. Can't wait to hear yours.
Well, Chris, mine circles around an announcement the NHL made recently about their outdoor games. Now, if you remember way back, Chris, the outdoor game was a thought about old Canadiana, where you're out in the backyard, you're out at the local rink, you're playing outdoors, you're playing in the cold, it's fun. And the NHL tapped into it, and they tapped into it, and it was a lot of fun at first. Now we're talking about the 40th and the 41st outdoor games coming up on February 17th and 18th. It's an interesting idea. It's at the Met Stadium in New Jersey. That's where MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. That's where the Jets and the Giants play football. And they're going to have the New Jersey Devils play the Philadelphia Flyers on Saturday. And then they got the Rangers and the Islanders coming in on Sunday. That's going to be the 40th and the 41st regular season outdoor game in NHL history. And the question to me, or my 2 cents about it is enough? It seems to have lost its polish, but I understand why the NHL does. It's all about money and advertising. But I don't know. I've not sat through watching a whole game from the outdoor games. It just doesn't seem like the rink is big enough. It seems everything seems to slow down a little bit for me. I just don't enjoy watching it on TV. Now, if I went in person, maybe I might change my tune. But my tune today is I've had enough of the outdoor games. NHL, just be done with it, and that would be just fine with me. And that's our 2 cents for this week. Hope you've enjoyed our 2 cents here on Rogers TV. For Chris, I'm Jerry. Good night.